Well, first of all, it was Monte who had been on the board of directors. He was in charge of Radiology department. Thought it would be an interesting project, and approached me about 7 or 8 years ago, and I kept putting it off. And then when I finished the last project, I thought, well, this would be a good time to start that. And I started to read about it, and then he and I went to the museum. I walked into that museum, and I got a feeling out of that museum. That's what really started it. And getting into that sort of attic and walking across those boards, I had a feeling of being close to them. That this was the atmosphere that really intrigued me. And as they showed me the photos, I started to pick photos and felt close to the photos that I picked. I could recognize that I had done that work. That's number one. The orchards, the oxen, the sawmill. I could relate back to the fields. I could relate back to dairy barns, horses. This is what I know. This is what made me what I am. And this is the thing I live with very comfortably. I enjoy doing manual labor. I enjoyed it. I felt like a somebody. In order to fit in with the older guys, working in a ditch or on a farm or in the woods. You know, you really feel as if, at 12 or 13, you feel as if you're a man. There was a feeling of familiarity went along with it. And so I knew this was going to be good, that I could do it. I have a cast of characters. I'm like a movie director. And I start to draw, I just draw figures. Then I draw the kind of shape I want. I've been working on about a week or so when I said to myself, these are very nice people. I was working on the orchard, and remember I got the guy with the ladder, he's setting the ladder up way over on the left. I ended that on a Friday, and I came home feeling very satisfied. I'd done a good job, I got that head the way I wanted it, the position. And Sunday night, while I was asleep, I got disturbed by the fact that I better take a second look at that figure. I came in, I took a second look at that face, and I knew I better change it. So I put white paint all over it, waited for it to dry and start all over again. When I was finished, what stopped me with the last brush stroke, I sensed someone saying, now that looks like me. And I stopped. Right here are the small sketches that mean something to me, but may not mean anything to anyone else. And I'm trying to line up the panels because I decided to do 6 panels. And so you can read that we have the sawmill, prayer, apples, and if I wanted to study these right down here, I'd know which ones I had drawn. Right now I really don't know because there have been a lot of changes made. So this is the apple orchard, and at first I was going to combine the apple orchard with weeding. I have a group of boys weeding here, haying, and this is the schoolroom. Finally decided to separate them. I decided to focus on the hayfield, focus on the apple orchard, and focus on the school. And at that point, after that, did I start making sketches of individual figures. Here are individual figures. I liked this, but I didn't use it. It didn't fit in with what I wanted to do. Because I find if I do this, I'm thinking in terms of the volume of the figure instead of the line, of the outline, the contour of the figure, which is very flat. I like to think in terms of 3 dimensions. I want to give weight and body to that figure. I have a man standing on a ladder, stretching out. Now he is back too. What I'm going to do here is do this man front view so that the ladder is between you and the man. And I take the water, and I'm drawing him out now. That's how I'm drawing him out. You see, it's a very simple line. And now comes the time to dig out the color, whatever I did. Here it is, all right? I don't need to do this in full color. Now this tells me what I've got right and what I've got wrong. The thing to do is always to stop, put down something. You got to have something to correct. Everything you do in art is wrong to start with. After that, it's a matter of what color is this? Oh, well, I'll use this. Doesn't matter what color. After that, it's a matter of correcting all the errors, one by one, till it's right. Now that I got that mass of color down, I'm going to stand up, and I can feel myself reaching out for that apple. I don't care about details. There's a correction. And this holds on to the ladder at the very extreme. So if I got the ladder like now, I can put the ladder like this, and I've got that guy. And I can feel my own legs and feet right here. Now, I don't need to have everything in proportion. It's almost like a cartoon. You exaggerate it to get the movement. Then beyond that, then you can refine it. And from that, I get it on to the, once I redo the scale sketch, yeah, then I follow the lines on the grid. I don't put a grid across this. Because what I'm doing, I get the grid on the board, and I use this and say, this is what it should be instead of the little one. But what I want to do is maintain what I call the central line of action of that figure. And I can show you right now what the central line of action is, because I'm going to bring the spine into the foreground. And what it is, it's this plus that hip up here and that. That's the movement. I use a major figure to set the style. For instance, I did start off, I think, with this central figure. Right now, he's nowhere near like the first one. And then I went to that woman. And then I started down the line with the women, and I went and picked up the men. I know that my first sketch is not going to be satisfactory. I'm not going to get the essence until I bury myself into this process. This is the space that we got. What this does, this is the shape of this. All the figures are contained in this. This is the abstract design. And then with that are these stopping points that make all this move. Then I get skirts down here, and perspective here, and now I refine it, you see. But in the beginning, I've got this. This is what it is. That's the basic composition of the whole mural. You know, the primitive man painted on a wall because he wanted to eat, and so when he painted on the wall, painted say a bison or an antelope, his idea was that he was freezing that animal, capturing its soul. Then when he go out hunting, that animal would stand still and let himself be killed because they owned the soul. This is the thing that's difficult. A mural has to tell one story, but every part of that painting has to add to that story so that nothing is really going to take all the attention. All my murals have one thing in common. They tell a single story. You can find a lot of stories inside the murals themselves. You can find a lot of stories inside the orchard. The grandmother, the grandchild at the barrel. That's a point of interest. The guy handing the bucket down to some kid who's going to bring it over to somebody who's going to put apples in the barrel. The little girl carrying a bucket of apples. The guy. These are all orchard activities, and you stand from a distance from that orchard or the entry of that orchard. You see the wagons and the barrels and all that. You see all that activity says orchard. And if only you look at the tops of the trees and the guy's picking, it says orchard. The trouble with teaching art was to know only my way of working and my style and try to impose my vision on someone else. That's stupid. No one imposed a vision on me. If you're going to be in the arts, you need all kinds of experience. You have to pay attention to accidents. You have to pay attention. After the WPA folded down, I had a choice of going out to earn a living or sticking with my art, not earning a living, and having my wife and child go off someplace else. So I chose, of course, to stay home and find a job. I got more strength and more information and more experience from living life as is instead of in an ivory tower. I'm stuck on one philosophy. I want people to understand what I'm saying. I believe art ought to say something. Now, I'm not willing to spill paint on a canvas as an accent for somebody's interior design. I didn't start drawing at age 4.5 to end up doing that. I want to fulfill my own dreams. My contemporaries used to kick the daylights out of me because I wouldn't change. They said, come on, get up to date. You know, you're stuck in the past. It was easy for them to give up their dreams. They're in the city. They didn't have any of that to hold them. But I had that kind of roots to hold me. So I was really very, very lucky. When does anyone get a chance to fulfill his or her own dreams? I'm a very privileged guy. To me, the joy of doing this thing is not just a matter of wielding a brush and enjoying what comes out from the bristles of that brush. It's the brain work. That's the big thing for me. That I can do something at my age, that I can come up with a set of murals that is a slight departure from a previous job is very satisfying. I may not feel well physically, and I say, well, I'm coming down toward the end of it. But when I'm doing something that's a little bit in advance of these or the Indians, I feel so good. Now I'm really not brain dead. If I can find something wrong, it has to be corrected. That's a thrill. But then if you can fix it, my God, who can live better than that? Right? So I'm not worried about a thing that I do in these things. If I have to white out a large section, I'll do it. I may not live long enough to finish it, but at least I recognize that it needed to be done. At this time of life, if you can't be honest with yourself, before you can be honest with anybody else, you got to be honest with yourself. At least I have to be honest with myself. And finally, after all these years, when the Greeks said, "To thine own self be true," I'm getting a glimmer.